Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're working with jQuery, you're probably always on the hunt for ways to level up your technical skills, right? You want to speed up that development process? Well, today, we're focusing entirely on the technical implementation and the best practices of a technique that will absolutely transform how you write your scripts. We are diving into a true masterclass on jQuery chaining. Okay, let's dive into this because, at the end of the day, as developers, we all just want features that speed up our code production workflow. We want a process that's highly efficient, something that lets us do way more with significantly less code. And honestly, that is exactly where chaining comes in. It's one of those genuinely cool foundational features of jQuery that acts like a massive turbo boost for your daily coding output. Section 1, Introducing jQuery Chaining. So, before we actually start building anything, let's break down exactly what this powerful coding mechanism actually is under the hood. Chaining is essentially the ability to link together multiple functions or methods on a particular set of jQuery objects. Those elements we grab directly from the page. You can apply all these methods in just one single line of code. Honestly, you've probably even seen this used in previous tutorials, or maybe inside other codebases you've poked around in, but you might not have realized that this specific technique is what was happening. It's a huge part of that classic jQuery magic. But how do we actually accomplish this linking? Well, it's all about the dot syntax. You take your initial element selection, and then you just append dot this, dot this, dot this. You're literally chaining, or linking, all of those separate methods and functions together into one continuous statement. The dot is basically the critical glue holding your entire chain of commands together. Section 2, a visual DOM traversal. Now, what's really interesting about this concept is seeing exactly how it works in practice. We're going to look at the exact technical implementation using a highly visual example straight from our source material. We are going to build a massive DOM traversal statement, step by step mapping the specific code actions to distinct visual colors. That way, you can track exactly what jQuery is targeting on the page. So we've got three main steps in this chain. First, grabbing a specific ID and making it red. Next, grabbing an adjacent image and making it green. And finally, traversing all the way back up the DOM to find a section tag and making it blue. Let's break down exactly how this chain is built. Starting off the chain, just like we always do, we use the $sign to declare we're using jQuery. Then, we go after our very first element on the page. In this specific case, we're targeting an ID called contact methods. Once we have that element returned to us, we initiate the first action in our chain. We use the .css method to change the border to 2 pixels, solid and red. Pretty simple so far, right? Dot is step 1. Let's move to and see how this builds. Rather than ending the statement with a semicolon right there, we immediately append .next. This tells jQuery to go after the very next element in line in the DOM hierarchy, which, in this specific example, just happens to be an image element. Then, without breaking the chain, we append another .css command. We target that newly grabbed image element and give it a border of 2 pixels, solid and green this time. And get this, we are still in the exact same line of code. And this brilliantly illustrates the real power of chaining. From that green image, we now append .closest, passing in a section tag in quotes. We know the closest method travels back up the DOM until it finds the nearest matching element. So jQuery travels up from the image, finds the wrapping section tag, stops right there, and grabs it for us. Finally, we chain one last .css method onto that section tag, giving it a border of 2 pixels, solid and blue. Think about that. A red border, a green border, and a blue border on 3 entirely different elements, all chained together in one single incredibly powerful statement. Section 3, the clean code philosophy. So chaining is an amazing, highly efficient workflow trick, but there is a very real, very messy complication when you start chaining absolutely everything together without thinking about structure. Here is a direct and absolutely crucial warning from the instructor in our source material. Don't get too carried away with chaining, because as you can see already, it's becoming a little bit unreadable. I mean, think about it. If our red, green, and blue border statement was twice as long as the example we just went through, you can completely forget about readability. It just becomes this overwhelming wall of text on your screen. When we overchain, we end up with one massive, unreadable, untidy line of horizontal code that just stretches all the way off the edge of your screen. To solve this, we have to rely on clean code formatting. The technical best practice here is incredibly simple, but man, is it wildly effective. After every single change that you perform on an element, you just hit enter. That's it. You put those chained methods on entirely different vertical lines. So the crucial point is that chaining is incredibly cool, but really only when it's used in small doses and formatted correctly. By hitting enter after every element change, you ensure you're performing one distinct action per line. You're still technically chaining everything into one continuous execution for the browser, but visually, you create a highly logical structure. Line 1 goes after the contact methods. Line 2 grabs the image. Line 3 goes after the section. It keeps your code super tidy, which is absolutely vital for other developers who have to come in, read, and maintain your code later on. Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. Are you writing code just to make it work in the browser? Or are you writing it to be read by humans? jQuery chaining offers a massive technical advantage for your production workflow. But as we've explored today, true coding mastery is balancing those cool workflow tricks with clean, professional formatting. So next time you open up your code editor, I challenge you to implement this chain structuring on your own projects. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep building.